Okay, welcome to Grief Chat with myself, Mark Lemon. For today's episode, I'm delighted to be speaking with podcaster and one of the founders of the Grief Space, Amber Jeffrey, and the founder of the Dead Parents podcast, Kathryn Hooker. How are you guys?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. Yeah. So today, obviously, we're going to be talking a lot about podcasts, which all three of us know, a little bit about now. But I was wondering, firstly, if you could just give us a brief introduction into your own experience with grief, please. And I'll go with you, Amber, first, please.
Yeah, of course. Yes, everybody, my name's Amber. My experiences with grief is because 4 years ago, on the 25th of June 2016, my lovely mum, Susan Valentine, passed away from an unexpected heart attack. As you can imagine, just threw myself and my family's world upside down. Yeah, wild times.
To put it lightly.
Yeah.
And Kathryn?
So nearly 5 years ago now, November 5th, bonfire night, typical my mum fashion, goes out with a bang. She passed away from cancer. She was battling it for just over 3 years and deteriorated very quickly and passed on November 5th. So the night that she died, we were looking up at the sky and seeing all these fireworks. So bonfire night's kind of special night for me. I kind of look forward to it and dread it every year.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, we can all feel that one. So obviously today we're going to be talking about podcasts, and over the recent couple of years, really, podcasts have been such a great forum for the bereaved community to be able to just listen to other people have a chat about a subject which is usually a taboo one, which nobody wants to kind of address or talk about, which I'm pretty sure is the reason why we wanted to get into it. I was just wondering whether you could just give me a brief as to why you wanted to start the podcast. And also, I was wondering how soon after it was from your own grief that you decided to want to do it. So this is to you, Kathryn.
Yeah. So I would say I started the podcast, I think, in 2018. So it's just over 2 years old now. I actually started it with my best friend at the time. So we were at uni together. Her dad died a year before my mum died. And we just really benefited from that friendship, from just having one other person that understood exactly how we were feeling and what we were going through. And there is just so little out there for young adults who are grieving. And we were just, one evening we were together, we just thought, why don't we just start telling people like what we talk about and these stories, and nobody will listen, but at least we're kind of doing something with what we're talking about. So we set up the podcast, and we thought we'd probably run out of guests within about 6 months, and lo and behold, 2 years later, I'm still recording podcasts every week, which is amazing. I do it by myself now. Sam lives a very, very busy and full life. It was about 2 years after my mum died, and I think in some ways that might have been too soon, but I don't think there's ever really a right time to do something. I think you just have to jump right in and do it if you feel the drive to just kind of support that community. And yeah, I'm so blessed to be in it. Like the Instagram community is just insane. Like the grief community, there's so many people that are just so ready and hungry to just relate with people. It's incredible. So yeah, that's the birth of the podcast, and haven't looked back since.
And how about you, Amber?
Brilliant. Grief Gang was born a year ago this week, actually. A year ago this Monday, just gone the 21st. And it came off the back of mine came quite late, and the realization that I wanted to do something about 3 years after Mum passed away. I'd kind of sailed through those 3 years, coasting along, thinking I was doing a great job, and had this grief thing in the bag. And I was like, yeah, no, you don't, Amber. You're not okay. And then with that, I love a podcast anyway. So then I kind of just had a little search on like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I thought, let's see if there's something like for grief out there. So I found a few, and I was like, and they're all amazing in their own retrospects. And I was like, oh, thank God there is people out here talking about it. I just thought, I'm not seeing anyone who sort of like looks like me and like same age and like in it right now with me. And I was just like, I was a bit like, that's a shame. I was like, but okay. And then just had this light bulb moment. I was like, screw it. Like, if I can't find it, let me just do it. Let me just do it and just waffle and just talk about. No one might not like it, as you say, Kat. Like, you know, no one want to
just like, throw it out there, pick it for the best.
Yeah. Like, it's my release. I'm just gonna waffle and say about the weird things that go on in between my head. And if it resonates with someone, fantastic. And yeah, it's been a year since, and I've had the pleasure to meet with some fantastic guests, and they shared their stories with me, and in between that as well, like sharing my own experiences along the way too. Yeah, it's something I bloody adore doing.
I don't know about you, Amber, but like I was so surprised to see just how well people respond to it, like just the community out there that there is. Like I was so surprised, and it's just growing. It's growing so fast. And I bet you've noticed that as well, Mark.
Literally, yeah, the online Instagram community, isn't it? It's just, you
insane.
See, when I came a year ago, there was quite a lot. It's almost like I opened a door to like this grief Disneyland. And I was like, oh God. I was like, all these people are here and they're grieving and they want to talk about it. Like, where have you been all my life? And then just every day, new accounts, new platforms, new podcasts sprouting out the ground. And I'm like, this is fantastic. It's growing every day.
Yeah, well, like you say, I was the same. It's, you know, you realise that the people are out there who want to talk about it, and this subject, which for many years, including myself, I struggled to know how to articulate it myself, you know. And so to sort of actually sit down with someone and have a conversation about this subject that you'd always locked away, it's like, wow, you know. And then and it's pretty exciting, like you guys know, when you've released that first episode and you get the feedback, you know, and it just spurs you on to just want to create more and more and talk to, you know, more people about this subject. Everyone. And it's really nice when you're contacted by other people and saying, look, I would really love to come on and talk and share my story. And, you know, especially when they've said they haven't shared it before. And so they're, you know, it's quite an honor, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Massively.
Yeah. Someone, or, you know, if we like receive messages and stuff of people really offloading, and they're like, you know, you're the first person I've spoken to about this. And I think that is such like an honor that you from like my page or podcast, whatever you have resonated with, have felt comfortable to talk to me. And yeah, I think it's a real honor, and it always will be.
Yeah. So you guys have been recording a lot over the last, you know, 4 months, 5 months over COVID-19, and since all of this stuff's happened, you know, and for me, it's been a great opportunity to be able to, I think firstly, I was like, I'm not sure about recording remotely, but it sort of pushed me to do it, you know. And I think it's been a really powerful tool to be able to talk to people at this time. How have you found the reception through this period, you know, through your own podcast and recording? Kathryn?
Yeah, so I've always recorded my podcasts remotely. I live in a very small part of the UK, and just traveling to people just wouldn't be possible at all. I probably had to take out a mortgage to do it. So I've always been apt with, like, you know, doing online recordings and stuff with people, and I feel like over the last couple of months you have seen like a huge growth in the people that are out there looking for something. I think people have really kind of looked into themselves, and grievers especially, it's given them an opportunity to maybe look at their own grief, and have come to the realization that they need to kind of connect with people or take some more time for their grief. And I think obviously there's been a lot of young grievers that have unfortunately had to join this community during this time as well, during a really difficult time when there isn't any face-to-face support available. So I think podcasts have just been an absolute saving grace for so many people, that there's just something that they can listen to on the go, wherever they are, and just to show them that they're not alone in what they're going through, because that's the one thing that we all suffered with the most, I think, that we're like the weird outcasts who have got a dead parent, but actually there's thousands of us.
Yeah. How about you, Amber?
Yeah, so it's sort of throughout, same for you, Kat, really, like responses and feedback throughout lockdown and this time, it kind of has gone like through the roof, and it's a bit of a bittersweet feeling, because it's like, oh my God, I'm being able to interact with all these people, but then on the other hand, it's because they're now going through a loss. through, and we're going through a global pandemic where people are dying every day, and more people are joining the gang, and it's like, oh, Christ. But yeah, no, I find, as you said, Kat, you know, podcasts, they're so accessible. People are literally like divulging them. They're like, oh, give me more, give me more, give me more.
Yeah.
So it's been a really great time to really interact with like our audience and our listeners, and really get like a gauge for what they want, or just being able to pause and actually have like a chat with people and talk to them on a level. So I have, like, in a weirdest way, have enjoyed lockdown, because it's really given me time to talk to my audience with Grief Gang and really get to know them.
Building like proper connections that we never have a chance to do it.
Yeah.
No, I'm completely the same. It's felt, for me, it's been like a cathartic way of getting through it all, you know.
Definitely.
Kathryn, didn't we talk through lockdown?
We did. Yeah, that's
so,
a your episode as well. So jumping right into those online recordings.
No, it's been great. So the other question I wanted to ask you both is how you've supported your own mental health throughout this whole period. You know, it's been a difficult one, hasn't it? And I know for me, for example, I've been trying to do as much exercise as I can with 2 small children, you know.
We talked about that on the podcast, didn't we?
I bet they do. Yeah, as well. She's so funny.
she'll only let you do as much as she'll let you do, you know. But yeah, so for me personally, that's been great. But how about you guys? Have you done anything specific that you can maybe share with the viewers about your own mental health and what's helped you?
Ooh, to be honest, I'm quite a lazy mare, so like laying in bed is like the fight for me. But no, during lockdown, there was a bit of like a wall that I just hit, and that was sort of like around May time. So we were coming into like nearing on 3 months, and I was like, oh my god, we're really not getting out of this anytime soon. And I just go on walks. I really just go on walks. Where I live, I live in Wokingham, and it's just got such beautiful scenery around. Like I've got woods on the back of like my house and loads of parks. And if it was all just getting a bit too much, I'd just be like, oh, I'm just going to go out. I'm just going to go out for about 30 minutes. Nothing strenuous. Just take it leisurely and just walk. Sometimes I'd leave my phone, which I don't know if that's dangerous or not, but I'd leave my phone and just really switch off and just get lost in the woods.
There's nothing better than that.
Yeah, fantastic, isn't it?
How about you, Kathryn?
To be honest with you, like, it's quite hard to pinpoint exact things, because ever since my mum died, and even prior to passing away, I have always kind of struggled with my mental health quite a lot. And it's one of those things that grievers, you know, it's very prevalent. A lot of us there's a big association with grief and, you know, difficulties with your mental health. So I've always tried to kind of like incorporate things into my life that kind of make it a bit easier. And over lockdown, I was lucky and not lucky that I've been working full time. So I've been able to keep kind of busy in that aspect. My brain's always been focused, and I've always had a kind of structure in my day. But like similar to Amber, I've definitely been taking myself outside a lot more than I did before, and just time alone as well, because I live with my partner, and then obviously in the middle of lockdown, you're kind of with the same person all day, every day. And I think just taking some time out for yourself to just breathe literally does absolute wonders. And I'm a big fan of like the mindfulness apps and taking a bit of like meditation every day and writing down your thoughts and stuff. But I do think for a lot of people as well, not just for myself, but it is a constant battle. So you're just kind of constantly trying to find things that work for you along the way.
Yeah, I think it, like you say, it's a constant battle, isn't it? You know, which you know, the grievers know every day you're trying to do something to try and support yourself and get out of the rut that you might be in. You know, I've had it this week, for instance, where, you know, you get this low of confidence and this hit, and then you come out of it a bit, you know, but you do find ways to get out of it. And there might be somebody out there, you know, the listeners, as to they might be struggling as to what they can do to support their mental health and their grief. What would you say to anyone struggling at the moment with their grief? You know, what sort of say 3 things have helped you, you know, do you think, along the way over the last couple of years?
I am like a big fan of taking like a holistical approach to grief. So working on like your mind, I know, so fancy, like kind of like, but it's stuff that I've come to learn throughout the way. So like, you know, your mind, your body, just like your soul, like in your inner work. And I think it is all about doing the inner work on yourself. So I think exercise is amazing, you know, and doesn't have to be working yourself to the bone. It can be going out for a walk. Feeding yourself properly, whether that is like when you can, food has got such a huge connection to your gut and to your brain. So when you can, just try and nourish yourself with good food. Like I am the worst for having a night in and eating all the bad food in the world, but just finding that balance is so good. And then also, you know, taking the time to write and meditate and really sit in with your grief, I think is so important. And then obviously the final thing would be just to reach out for help and support, whether that is in the form of podcasts or a friend or even someone professional like a counsellor. There's always something out there. So if you are struggling, there's no reason to kind of sit and just dwell in it. There's always an action you can take.
Yeah. Never to suffer in silence. I would probably say, like, when I think back to like when I became newly bereaved and sort of things that I wish someone had said to me, sort of what's springing to mind is, you know, like every feeling is valid, and it's, you know, it's not strange that you're feeling these feelings, which I think some people when they become newly bereaved, when things like anger seep in, so like me, I became really angry, but the way my mum died was nothing to be like angry about. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was out of her control. It was out of anybody's control. But I was like really angry at her.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, why was I angry at my mum? And I remember battling with myself, thinking that's so awful that I'm like angry at my mum because she died. Then looking back, I had to go through all of those feelings and all of those notions. So what I'd say is, you know, all the feelings are valid, and ride the wave. Like, it can be a tricky wave and roller coaster, but ride the wave. And when it settles, you'll look back and you'll be like, that's why I had to do that. I had to go through that to be where I am here today, and to realise that. So yeah, every feeling is valid. One more thing that I always just try, you know, your grief is a part of you, but it doesn't have to define you. So, you know, my grief is a huge part of me. Like, I feel like it's like 90-10 me.
Like your identity, especially with your platform as well. Like, you literally are like, grief is like 90% of my life.
It's grief. So that's me. But like, it doesn't define me though. Like, it's a heavy and big part of me that I love. But it doesn't define me. Like, I'm still Amber, who will go and get like pissed the night before, like I did last night, and full of wine, like have fun. Like, I still enjoy some of the things that I did before my mum died. I'm still Amber, and you will still be you as well. Whatever parts you still want to be of you, because trust me, when people die, you do almost like shed a skin, I believe, and you shed a skin and you become like a new you. But you don't have to it doesn't have to define you. You don't have to have that big label on your forehead all the time.
I feel like you don't just become like any you once. You are constantly evolving and becoming a new you. Like, you know, you have those like huge grief moments when you suddenly have that realization again when you're older, like, holy shit, this person is no longer here. And then you adapt to that again and you become a new version of yourself again. Like, you are constantly changing.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Kat. Yeah, like with every sort of like monumental or milestone moment in your life where you have it is almost like you peel back another layer of yourself of like, okay, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to adapt to this new thing? And you're like, God, I'm a different person to who I was about 3 years ago. I think way different from what I was.
One of the things that we mentioned as well, Mark, in the episode that we did was that, like, finding purpose in your grief, like, you know, how realizing that what you've been through, you could help at least one other person go through that as well. And it's amazing to think that your experience could help somebody else.
Yeah, that's the most powerful thing about what we're doing, isn't it? Is that we're, you know, through this really shit time, we've used it to go and try and help other people. And I was just thinking while you're talking as well, we're sort of helping ourselves, obviously, in a selfish sort of way. But it's a cathartic thing, isn't it? It's like us talking about our grief. So, every week, sharing it with so many people. I mean, it's quite a strange thing in a way, isn't it? We're putting
You're literally like letting yourself out there to strangers.
Yeah, we are. It's quite strange, but and the other thing is, which you guys do really well, is also bring a bit of humor into it. The lightheartedness of grief, of talking about this subject, and even like my mum, who's she listens to every episode. She's like, you always bring a bit of humor to it, don't you? It's quite, and so obviously she's, nearly 70, but she's like of an age, of an era where you don't bring that humor into it. It's not a laughing matter.
You don't really talk about it either. Like,
yeah, exactly. So I think that's quite the powerful thing out of everything we're doing, and podcasts in general, is that people see different sides of grief, and it's not just always get your tissues out and cry and listen to someone tell their story. It's about the light-hearted memories that we hold, isn't it?
Massively.
I think that's definitely. Oh, sorry, you go. That's definitely something that when I started the podcast, I was like, I want to show that there are like some really funny moments in grief, and like almost dark, humorous, and like, whoa.
Oh yeah.
Because I know, oh my God, there's been many times where things have happened. I'm like, I want to laugh at that, but I don't know if this is the time and place.
My favorite thing is making a joke out of like making somebody feel awkward in a situation about my own loss, which is awful. But
like, for example, like my favorite, I think I posted about it on Grief Gang. It was around Christmas time, and don't get me wrong, sometimes I feel a bit cruel when I do it. But someone asked, what did you get your mum for Christmas? And they were really light-hearted like that, and I went, oh, nothing, she died.
Shop assistants always do like that. You're like, oh God.
And I said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like I couldn't miss the opportunity then. I was like, yeah, she did actually die. Like, I'm not joking. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, humor's definitely a good way of bringing it out, and also worrying people at the same time like that. And like, but look, guys, how can people find you? Where can they find you? Where are your podcasts? Where are you shouting about yourselves the most?
Kat, you go, girl.
Okay, so the podcast is on Instagram at Dead Parent Club Podcast. We're on Facebook, Dead Parent Club, and you can drop me an email, dpcpodcast@hotmail.com. I'm on Twitter at DPC Podcast as well, but our biggest kind of community and space is definitely on Instagram. And I release a new episode every week with another person, a young adult from anywhere across the world, who shares their own story of grief and basically how it's changed their lives and impacted them. And there's always a positive message to find in each of the episodes as well. So yeah, knock yourself out.
Good. For me as well, I'm most active on Instagram, so you can find the Grief Gang on Instagram at the Grief Gang. I'm also on Twitter and Facebook, but I'm more active on the Instagram page. Finding the podcast, you can find it on like all majority podcast streaming platforms, so Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, and come along, come and see what we're talking about, and me just chatting absolute rubbish all the time, just like waffling into the text box, and people are like, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, I'm not an alien. And come get involved, come engage. Like, I love talking to people all the time.
Nothing better.
Yeah, they're two brilliant podcasts. I just want to say a big thank you to you guys for coming on and sharing your stories, but also talking about podcasts and the forum of them, because I think, as we're seeing for this festival, we're all going online, and there's lots of different forums and ways for people to grieve. And I think your podcasts are a great way of sort of proving that, basically. So
thank you, and yours. It's so successful. So
yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Thank you, and yourself.
Cheers.